Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. I've got a video for you that's kind of going to be sad for many of us, but I know it's going to be information that many of you wanted to know, and so I wanted to bring this to you. Let me make it clear, there's nothing in this video that's going to be brand new or really shocking, but for both of these individuals, I'm pretty sure it's the first time they've spoken on camera about why they departed. And so it's going to be something that, again, many of you want to watch. So Trent Oster and David Gaider are definitely two heavyweights in the game industry, and they both played a big role in many of the games that we came to know and love, whether it be the Baldur's Gate series, KOTOR, and of course the Dragon Age games. Now, for both of them, they mention EA's purchase as being a big reason why they left, and something that eventually morphed Bioware into a company where they no longer felt like they could succeed. And again, that's very unfortunate here for many of us who loved so many of those Bioware games from early on before the purchase. And so I'm going to let each of their comments play back to back, and then afterwards I'll give you my own thoughts on what was spoken about.
It came down to a simple thing, which was I really felt like I couldn't succeed at Bioware. The company had changed. When we got bought by first a private equity firm in Elevation Partners, Greg and Ray had never had a boss before, and there was a lot of financial pressure to produce that I don't think they had before. Before that was kind of like, oh, well, we'll just go bankrupt and it'll be okay. Somehow that was preferable to actually having a boss mad at you. I don't know what universe that makes sense, but I kind of understand it now as a business owner. But the other side of it, I mean, at that point, we were trying to do a lot of things internally. And I had worked at Bioware. Like, if there was a job at Bioware, at some time I probably had it. I was the head of IT. I was the director of technology. I was the head of the 3D art department. Then I was a programmer. I did everything.
Project head of Dragon Age Origins.
Yeah. I never took that, though. They kept the 3 times they tried to stick me with Dragon Age, and I was like, Dragon Age isn't my baby. I don't love it. So if I don't love it, I can't make it awesome. And so I led the technology side.
Yes.
And Scott Gregg led the game side of Dragon Age. That's not to say I didn't have feedback and input, and it's not to say I didn't tell Scott how to do his job sometimes. But I never directly took control of Dragon Age. But for me, I mean, the decision to leave Bioware was really like Electronic Arts. It's important to know what it is. It's a monetization company. It takes a product and it extracts money out of it. It does that because it's focused on these kind of like maximal 3-year timeline. It has to hit quarterly earnings, and it's planning 3 years in advance. To make something new, especially in that era, took 4, sometimes 5 years. If EA heard of a project that wasn't going to ship in 3 years, they murdered it. And they murdered it quickly because they were like, why are we wasting money on something that won't make us money for the next few quarters? So I was trying to do one of those long-term projects, and I got asked at one point, it's like, hey, yeah, why don't you make it a Facebook game? Because that was the time when Facebook games were going big, and I was like, if you want to make a Facebook game, I'm not your guy. You should find somebody else, because I'm not going to do a good job, and I'm not going to do what you want. So I left. I started Beamdog, and we were like, hey, let's have our own game company. This will be fun. And we started working. We started working on it. It's kind of funny because I got into the game industry by not paying myself for a year, and Beamdog, the same story. I got Beamdog as a company by not paying myself for a year.
Well, I mean, I remained at Bioware well after Trent had left. When did you leave Trent? 2009.
Yep.
Okay, so in 2014. We shipped Dragon Age Inquisition, so that was the 3rd Dragon Age game. At that point, I was like, I went to Mike Laidlaw, the creative director, and I said, I've probably written as many stories about demons and mages that I have in me. I can stay on this project, but I feel like it'd be a detriment to the project if I stayed on, because I feel like it would just get a little rote. So I wanted to move on to something else creatively, and unfortunately, that project was Anthem, the project that became Anthem. And it wasn't. I was on that for like a year before I'm like, that was not the move for me. That there were forces with Bioware was changing much more rapidly at this point under EA's direction. You could feel the changes. The more and more people were trying to align with what EA wanted, and you could feel like the the people who didn't want to make RPGs anymore and didn't really value writing like the company used to, they were being promoted, and so the wind was really shifting, and I'm like, it's no longer the company I started with. So I'm not saying that it went to crap or anything like that. Like I always wished Bioware well, and I lament some of the difficulties it's gone through lately, as much as anyone else. But it just, for me, from my perspective, it felt like it wasn't the same. It wasn't really interested in making the kinds of games that I wanted to make, that I was used to. I'm very old school. What can I say?
well, I'll just say, and turn it back over to Slander, I'll just say that I understand exactly what you're expressing here. I'm sure that Trent feels it the same way, just as Mark Dara has expressed it as well. Anyone whose careers are closely associated with the history of Bioware as a studio, you did as much as you could while you were there, and you left millions of people around the world inspired and empowered to the games that you made. So hold your head up when you look back on the legacy of Bioware, because it's a grand one of the best out there as far as studios are concerned.
So that's their words out of their mouth as to why they both ended up having to leave Bioware. I'm going to start with Trent, who of course went on to found Beamdog. I think it's an absolute travesty that Beamdog up to this point has not been able to secure the funding needed in order to create their own CRPG. Many of us, when we saw the early trailers of MythForce, immediately asked, why aren't they making a CRPG? Why aren't they following up on these games with the goodwill that has been generated from the enhanced editions of Neverwinter Nights and the Baldur's Gate series? And the fact of the matter is that they couldn't find anyone that was willing to give them the money to make a CRPG. And it just doesn't make any sense, considering Trent's incredible resume and considering the work Beamdog has already done that has established them as really a beloved studio and someone that many of us would love to see a new CRPG from. The fact that they couldn't find anyone who was willing to give them those resources, I just don't understand. And it speaks to how difficult things are right now for independent studios. And of course, David Gaider has experienced something similar. It's really unfortunate that after Dragon Age, he couldn't find a place in Bioware. I mean, Dragon Age Inquisition, for those of you who don't know, is literally the best-selling title in Bioware's history. And even beyond that, David Gaider has a major hand in so many of the most beloved titles in the entire history of that studio. So the fact that once he was burnt out on Dragon Age after 3 games, all of which on some level had tumultuous development histories, the fact that he couldn't move on to something different and they wouldn't support him in trying to do a new venture, I think it's just incredibly sad, incredibly misguided. And let's just be straight up, Bioware really has never been the same since. Losing David Gaider played such a massive role in the downfall of the studio that we're seeing now, because even though he got burnt out on on Dragon Age, if he was working on something else, at least he still could have been a presence on the development. He could have been someone that they could ask for guidance. He could jump in to help on certain things. There's just no way that the development of Dragon Age doesn't go better with Gaider being present. And again, I feel like similar to Beamdog, it's such a shame that Summerfall Studios has not been able to get the funding to make an all-out RPG the way David Gaider wants to. Last night, Wyvern and I recorded part 2 of our discussion with Ed Greenwood, David Gaider, and Trent Oster. And I don't want to steal Wyvern's thunder, so I'm not going to talk about this too much, but Gaider did drop some tidbits about the next game that he would like to make, the next type of RPG. And I feel like it's in line with the type of game that many of you, especially those of you who feel like you've been starved for fantasy type games, many of you would love to see this come to market. And it was obvious on that interview that there's a real possibility it won't get funded. He's not sure at all that he'll be able to make this game. And again, considering the incredible resume Gaider has, and that Summerfall has already released a successful game, they already have shown that that studio has development chops. The fact that they can't get funding for another venture is just so sad. It's so sad, it's so unfortunate, and it's just really hard to watch. And I hope we enter a time soon where that changes and where there's going to be a lot more investment and opportunity for independent studios to do something completely different. I talked about this a little bit in my video about the Steam machine and my hopes that Valve, of course, I'm totally down for Half-Life 3. If that comes out, I'll be all over it. But what I'm really pulling for is that Valve is going to start being a player in the publishing department and say, hey, I want to put some money in Dev's pockets to make games specifically for the Steam machine where we can advertise them and say, hey, if you want to play this particular title, the Steam machine is the place to do it. And I just feel like there's a lot of studios, not just Beamdog and Summerfall, that would really benefit from that type of investment, and it will allow them to make some incredible games that we all want to play. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Again, not necessarily a happy video, but one I feel like many of you want to see. So there you go. There you have it. I hope that one day we start getting more games like what David Gaider was able to create with the Dragon Age series and some of the other amazing Bioware titles he was involved in. There's nothing else like old Bioware out right now. There are games that I enjoy. I love Outcat games, really enjoy Larian games, really enjoy CDPR games. It doesn't hit for me the same as those original Bioware titles. Those Dragon Age Origins, the Mass Effect series, KOTOR, those games just have a special place in my heart. And nothing else, I feel like from an RPG standpoint, has really come close. And I hope that changes at some point. Anyway, that's it. That's the video. Leave your thoughts down below. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, hit that like button, hit that bell so you don't miss any other content. I will see you all in the next video. Take care.